Okay, so hey there, business owners, directors, and marketeers. In today's show, I'm meeting Cornelius Boertjens, CEO at Catchi. I'm Lucas, your host as always. So I want to tell you a little bit about Cornelius' businesses before we jump into the conversation. So Cornelius is a high-skilled digital marketing strategist with over 15 years of experience in the field. He's a CEO at Catchi, which is Australia's leading specialist in conversion rate optimization. So we really have the right person here today talking about CRO, as well as digital analytics, personalization with offices in Auckland, Sydney, and Melbourne. So really a bright spectrum there. So in 2018, Catchi was actually acquired by the Havas Group, which is one of the world's leading communication companies with its global head office here in Europe in Paris. Right. So Cornelius, very happy to have you on the show today and talk about sort of conversion rate optimization angle from Australia. So thanks for being part of the show today.
Thanks, Lucas. Thanks for the intro.
Very good. So tell us about your company. What is it all about?
So Catchi is all about, obviously, traditionally conversion rate optimization. Started the business about 7 years ago when there was, like in those times, there was like everything digital was extremely exciting. It still is, but everybody could do like bits and pieces of digital marketing. And we could really slowly see that there was going to be more and more of a specialist area in all the different disciplines, including SEO, SEM, video marketing, like all the disciplines that we see now. But in this part of the world, nobody was doing conversion rate optimization really well as a dedicated offering. Yep. So it was often kind of like tagged along by agencies saying like, well, do your AdWords campaigns. And of course, we can do some CRO work as well. And then we kind of like looked into, okay, well, how do we offer this as a dedicated consultancy service? So started Catchi, and in the beginning, like kind of doing the classic button tests and some copy and headlines, and that over the years completely transformed into data-driven optimization, which is kind of a very exciting area. So we look into basically looking into making sure that the data is tracked correctly on any website. So we're also Google marketing platform sales partners. We do a lot of work with Adobe and Oracle. Look into, okay, well, is the data being captured correctly? And often it's not. So fixing all that. And then from data, really making those data-driven decisions into optimization. So we still do a lot of obviously conversion rate optimization, A/B split tests, but also do really going into the personalization space now as well, where we look into how do we give visitors coming to a website a more personalized experience, or at least kind of based on their segment, and then that it really increases conversion rates. And on the back of that, do personalized A/B split tests, for example. So it's this continuous kind of loop from data, or this kind of the classic lean startup, right, methodology. It's test, implement, iterate, and then keep going in that circle. So that's how we work with clients.
Really good. Yeah, we're gonna dive into those specific topics for sure a little bit into this interview. I'm curious before that. So, who would be the types of people that you would be working with, and who would be requiring your services? Which type of companies? Which type of roles? What are the people you're working with usually?
Yeah, mainly really large corporate clients in Australia and New Zealand. Because traffic on this part of the world, right? It's different than in the US and Asia and in a lot of kind of parts of Europe. We're always dealing with a lack of traffic. Like New Zealand's got 4 million people, probably like a little bit more, 4.5 million. Australia about 19. So like no website really gets the traffic that you're used to in the US, for example, or even the UK, Germany, France. Yeah. So like our target market is like large corporates in New Zealand that have decent traffic, at least so we can run experiments that gets some type of validity along the way. So that's our sweet spot, and that we really can make an impact, because obviously kind of we charge normally like a monthly fee, work on retainer basis, keep optimizing, because it's like an ongoing process. You can't run it as a project, in my opinion. So there needs to be a return on investment, obviously, for clients as well. So that's our sweet spot.
And since you mentioned the traffic in Australia and New Zealand usually not being that high on most of the pages, what is the awareness about conversion rate optimization as a concept, right? Even in the US, people I'm speaking with, even in San Francisco, sometimes people would have the challenge to find the other end that is really aware of the concept, appreciating the concept, prioritizing the concept of conversion rate optimization. What's your experience in regards to that?
That's a really good question. So when we started the business, and because my wife is my co-founder, so we started the business together. When we looked at that in the beginning, it was basically the first 2 years we did nothing else than educating the marketplace. So we developed a course, like a conversion rate optimization course, started working with the marketing association here and the marketing association over in ETMA, which is the marketing association in Australia, and really educated the marketplace around, okay, you can drive all the traffic to the web, to a website or any digital asset that you want, but if that traffic is not converting or at kind of these really low rates that you mentioned as well, then what are you doing? Like, why are you spending all this money? So it was the education and making that tangible, and then we're still doing that. So when we talk to clients, we actually try to make it as tangible as possible. So a marketeer, that's normally kind of our target market, like a head of digital, head of marketing, chief marketing officer, chief digital officer, they still need to go back to CFO or sometimes board approval to make an investment, because it's not only our services, it's often like tools related to that as well, to actually make a business case for the investment. And it often comes down to, okay, well, we're spending X, what's our expected return? So it's our job to help them make that tangible. So kind of those numbers that you mentioned as well, that's the 40, 50 or whatever the percentage is an increase. If we show them and help them show them, like, listen, you currently your conversion rate is 2%, can help to increase to 2.4%. That increase is worth say $100-200 million to your bottom line, whatever that number is. So that's the key. That's absolutely the key.
Interesting. And which type of industries, especially in Australia and New Zealand, since you're bringing that unique angle to the show, which type of industries would be more on the forefront on focusing on conversion rate optimization?
Yeah, it's mainly highly competitive, high margin, highly online focused businesses. So we do a lot of work in the travel industry. So New Zealand is one of our biggest clients, for example. There's no secret about that. They've been a client since day one, pretty much. Do a lot of work with banks, a lot utility industry, lot of work in retail, although retail is tricky because margins are small, but traffic is high, and a change can make a big impact. So it's really looking at, it's almost kind of those different levers you've got. It's the margin that they make. So if they make higher margin on certain profit, like certain products in retail, we help them push the higher margin products, for example. So it's not just increasing conversion rates, it's really increasing conversion rates for the right products, of course, as well. And if you look at it from a service product point of view, it's really looking into those high margin service products that have lots of traffic that's currently not converting. So it's looking at that. So if we can't make an impact, obviously it's no use them doing any conversion rate optimization, but that's highly unlikely. It has never really happened yet. So
really good. You mentioned at the very beginning that you sort of stand for a continuous collaboration with the companies. Can you tell me a little bit more about this? How does a collaboration with Catchi look like?
Yeah, that's so that has really evolved over time. So initially, kind of it was more of an experimental budget. So we got some like really small budgets, and we're talking about 7 years ago, right? Where it was A/B split testing. It's all about A/B split testing. It wasn't really called, any personalization, conversion rate optimization. So we got those budgets, and then over time that grew into more significant budgets where the collaboration also evolved from us doing everything here in-house, which we still do, like full service, to more of a hybrid team kind of approach. So where we work best with clients is as an extension of their team. So they tend to have internal CRO people. And often people say, or we get question asked like, okay, well, isn't that like kind of a big threat that clients take stuff in-house, which you obviously see happen a lot in other industries as well. But for us, it's actually really good because what happens is that clients do have, say, one CRO or two or three in this part of the world maximum. So it's small teams. Yeah. And because of our breadth of knowledge and all the different clients and industries that we work with, we bring a very different angle, and actually we kind of the fuel on the fire that they have. So that means that they have an internal champion and stakeholders. There's buy-in, yep. And then we really help them to kind of excel that program, which works really well for us.
Makes a lot of sense. Very interesting, because it could seem counterintuitive, right? They already have somebody in the team, but now it seems much rather like you have somebody that is vouching for you much stronger, with a stronger voice internally.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. Okay, cool. So I'm curious about your own business, Catchi. Sorry. How does that? How do people find you usually? Like, what's the typical user journey of somebody in sort of Australia or New Zealand finding out about your company?
Yeah, well, so this is kind of where I should say that they find us online and they convert on our website, right? But that's not really happening. So, which is kind of counterintuitive, but New Zealand and Australia is very relationship driven. So yes, initially we started like promoting online, LinkedIn, Facebook, video marketing. And then I actually got the first couple of engagements via educating the marketplace. So I was running courses, and then clients came up, well, people came up to me and said, like, hey, that sounds really interesting. Can you help us to kind of do some of this, what this kind of CRO stuff in our business as well? And that's how it started. And from that, what we've really seen is that it's basically mainly word of mouth. Mm-hmm. So it's clients talking to other clients that they know, because it's such a small marketplace, right? So it's basically we're dealing with, Auckland, Sydney, and Melbourne. So it's a couple of cities, and now after we've been acquired by Havas, the Australian team operates not separate. We work together, but it's they have their own team in Australia now. So it's for us, like what happens a lot is. So people tend to move or change roles every 2 to 3 years in the digital space. So often what happens is that somebody works at a client, then goes to another business, and the first thing
where you're going,
like, hey, can you help us out here? Which is great. I mean, that's obviously great testimony as well. But that's how it works. It's like this word of mouth and relationship based. And yes, the occasional lead via the website. But even those leads that we get via the website, they're often because somebody either heard us speak at an event, met somebody from my team. There's always a relationship there with the offline component. So yeah, that's how it works.
Very good. So working with these sort of big companies that you were describing there, big retailers, for example, or travel companies that you mentioned, tourism companies, what challenges do you see again and again on those websites? Like, what's something sort of that you repetitively see that is hindering conversions? Maybe some themes or high-level learnings that you could share.
Yeah, a couple of recurring themes. One of them is definitely it's the implementation kind of side of things. So often what happens is a marketing team doesn't have in-house developers, right? So the developers sit in a different team, but because there is lots of work that needs to be done on the website that is considered by, say, the developers to be a lot more important than running A/B split tests, because we're talking about like accounts, area upgrades, or really kind of like back-end development. Often the marketing teams do not have dedicated developers, front-end developers, to actually implement and develop experiments. So that's often a bottleneck that we see. So we've got developers in our team to help clients obviously develop A/B split tests, and also help around the sprints to implement the results, which is the second one. So implementing results, that often kind of even if they run experiments, sometimes we see them not being implemented. So then what happens is experiments get run at 100%, and it's building and building and building, and that's definitely slowing the site down, but also slowing down the programs as well. So there's lots of different things that need to be, and we make sure that's all in place with clients, because any of those bottlenecks obviously has an impact on overall results. So that's there's lots of other.
Gotcha. Makes total sense. So what I've seen in a lot of the interviews that we've been running is that page speed has been mentioned again and again.
Yeah.
What's your sort of experience regarding the topic recently?
Yeah, it's because there's so many tools being implemented on websites and still via like Tag Manager in some shape or form, whether it's Adobe or Google related. It really slows down websites if it's not done properly, and that's what you often see. Or like in our case with experimentation, when there's obviously the snippet there. But the more experiments they run on the site, and that's what I just mentioned about running them at 100%, it just keeps increasing the load on the page, and it really does slow down the site. And of course, we all know a slower website impacts conversion rates. So it's certainly on mobile now, where most of the traffic is coming from. It needs to be, I think that's definitely something that needs to receive more attention by in-house, like the developers at the client side, is to keep that the text clean and make sure that the website, the speed keeps running, like the website keeps running smoothly.
Yeah, makes sense. Interesting. Maybe one last question about the conversion rates before we sort of slowly speaking maybe about you as a business owner. What are you excited about in terms of conversion rate at the moment? What's coming up? What do you see on the horizon that you think is interesting? Some new developments that you maybe can share?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak like from where we are, right, and focusing on. But for me, really exciting at the moment is the data side of things. And I'm talking about like really getting a sense of customer behavior online and offline. So we're trying to really working on bringing offline, online data sources together and around data visualization. And from that, we get a lot better experiments. So and the optimization programs become a lot better as well. And then on the back of that, the personalization. We've been talking about personalization for years. But now with the right tools in place and the right teams in place and the right data in place, we can just get so much better with that. So that includes campaign optimization, where we help clients to optimize, for example, their Facebook campaigns, which wasn't something we were traditionally doing. But that's kind of like exciting for us, because we can see they get better results across like all the money that they spend online. It's not just around increasing conversion rates. It's basically, for us, it's business optimization in that regard. So that's exciting.
Makes total sense. Very good. Yeah. So we're slowly coming to an end of the interview. But I would love to learn something about you as a sort of business person as well. What advice would you give yourself if you would sort of go back in time, restarting Catchi, and what would be something that you would tell yourself in terms of the learnings that you had building up the business?
Wow, that's one of the biggest things I would do is what I'm doing now. That's what I would do earlier on. Is kind of looking ahead more. Like in the early years, we were very responsive. So we're looking into, it was very ad hoc. So doing kind of bits and pieces here and there. And there wasn't kind of like a really solid strategy in place for our own business, which I think hindered growth a bit as well. So then, not saying that we missed out on certain opportunities in the marketplace, but it's definitely kind of we were very comfortable in that area, and now we're kind of expanding into other areas. So I would have done that earlier. I think earlier on, looking into what else can we really do to help clients get overall better results from the money that they spend online or in marketing in general. Because in the end, that's kind of the really big benefit, where we really make a tangible impact is on that. But on the other hand, I mean, it's always hindsight, right? Hindsight is a beautiful thing. And I think that's been a learning kind of over the last couple of years as well to really grow into that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Very cool. Very interesting. I think it helps people who are listening I think I love this question because people sort of reflect a little bit and give some very
Yes.
interesting insights. Very cool, Cornelius. Thanks a lot for sort of giving us an insight a little bit into your business, giving us an insight into the conversion rate optimization space in Australia and New Zealand specifically. Very interesting. So thanks for being part of the show today.
Cool. Thank you, Lucas. Appreciate it.